Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving back 800 years to unlock a medical manuscript that feels incredibly modern. It's a guide to healing where the very first prescription wasn't a pill, but a pomegranate.
So, let's just start with a basic question. Think about it. Long before our modern pharmacies, before sterile operating rooms and complex prescriptions, how did we even think about getting better? What were the tools in a doctor's bag?
Well, it turns out, for one brilliant physician, the answer wasn't in some complicated chemical formula. It was right there on your dinner plate. He was convinced that the path to health started with what you eat, and he laid it all out in a revolutionary book that we're going to dig into today. But to really get how groundbreaking his work was, we first have to understand the medical world he was living in. And believe me, it was a totally different ballgame from what we're used to.
You see, for centuries, the line between what was medicine and what was, well, magic was pretty much non-existent. Healing was this wild mix of folk remedies passed down from your grandparents, deep spiritual beliefs, and yes, sometimes even special words whispered over a patient.
But that's not the whole story. By the time we get to the 13th century, a much more structured, more rational approach to medicine had actually been the gold standard for over 1,500 years. It was this incredible intellectual inheritance from ancient Greece.
And this whole system really stood on the shoulders of two absolute giants. First, you had Hippocrates, way back in the 400s BCE, who's famous for arguing that diseases have natural causes, not supernatural ones. Then, fast forward a few centuries, and you get the physician Galen, who took those ideas and built them into this massive, comprehensive system that became the undisputed medical authority everywhere.
Now, at the very heart of all this Greek medicine was one powerful central idea, the theory of the four humors. The basic gist was this: your body contains four essential liquids. If you're healthy, it's because they're all in perfect balance. But if you get sick, well, that's just a sign that one of them is out of whack. A doctor's entire job was to figure out how to get them back in harmony.
Okay, so this is the world, a world completely dominated by 1,500 years of Greek medical theory that our protagonist is born into. He was a physician from Damascus, and he was going to build on this ancient tradition, but also challenge it in some really important ways.
His name was Ibn Al Nafis. And while he had massive respect for the work of Galen, he wasn't the type to just accept things without question, especially when it came to the practical, hands-on business of actually healing people.
And I have to be clear here, this guy was no ordinary doctor. He was a true polymath. I mean, check this out. He was running one of the most important hospitals in the entire world. He was an expert in law and theology, and get this, he was the very first person to correctly figure out how blood gets from the heart to the lungs and back again. We're talking centuries before European scientists got the credit. This was a world-class mind.
So he takes this incredible practical mind of his and focuses it on what he thought was the most fundamental part of health, nutrition. And he put all his ideas into a book that argued for a whole new, systematic way of treating patients.
His core philosophy was revolutionary because it was so simple. For Ibn Al Nafis, a doctor's first question to a sick patient shouldn't be, "What are your symptoms?" It should be, "What did you have for dinner?" Treatment didn't begin at the pharmacy, it began at the kitchen table. And you can see this logic perfectly in his step-by-step approach to healing. It's so elegant. Step 1, try to heal the patient only by changing their diet. That's it. If that doesn't work, okay, then move on to simple medicines, like single foods known to have a healing effect. And only as a final, last resort, if nothing else worked, would you turn to complex, multi-ingredient drugs. The guiding principle, always start with the gentlest method first. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Let's crack open this incredible manuscript and see what a patient in 13th century Cairo would actually be told to eat for dinner.
His book, The Chosen Foods, wasn't just some dusty old theoretical text. Nope. It was a practical, hands-on, A to Z guide that literally connected specific foods to specific illnesses. It was a real handbook for nutritional healing.
So let's take an example. Say you have a patient with breathing problems, maybe a nasty cough. He's not going to prescribe some kind of syrup. His first move would be to put you on a diet of barley soup, lentils, almonds, and a leafy green called malakia, all foods that were thought to be soothing and calming.
And this is just incredible. What you're looking at right now is not a recreation. That is a page from the actual 800-year-old manuscript. We are looking directly into his medical practice from across the centuries. It's amazing.
Okay, what about digestive problems? For a patient suffering from diarrhea, he prescribed foods that were meant to, bind things up and soothe the gut. Things like lentils, quince, pomegranates, and even something as simple as toasted flour.
And once again, here it is, the original text. You can just see how incredibly organized and clear this is. This wasn't just a collection of ideas. It was a practical reference guide designed for doctors to use every single day.
And finally, what if a patient had a fever? His whole strategy was to use foods that were believed to have cooling properties, and some of these might sound pretty familiar to us today, like watermelon or drinks made from rose water, which he'd prescribe alongside things like chicory and sour grapes to help bring the body's temperature back into balance.
So, what's the big takeaway here? This whole food is medicine idea, it feels so modern, so trendy, but we've just seen hard proof that 800 years ago, a physician built his entire medical system on that very principle. He literally wrote the book on it. It just makes you wonder, as we keep searching for the future of wellness, how much of it is actually waiting for us to rediscover in our past.